Well, hello, I'm Janet Morena, Executive Director of Priests for Life. Welcome to Just Ask Janet. Well, today's discussion is going to be probably a little surprising for most of you out there because so many people think that standing up for the unborn means you're a believer in Jesus Christ. Now, it's great to be a believer in Jesus Christ and stand up for the unborn. In fact, brothers and sisters, if everyone who touted belief in Jesus Christ wouldn't tolerate abortion, the game would be over. But unfortunately, we have believers in Jesus Christ who tolerate abortion, who actually go and have abortions. So today we're going to talk about what about if you don't believe in God at all? Can you stand up for the unborn? Well, guess what, brothers and sisters? You can. And we're going to have a very interesting discussion today with a very, very good friend of mine and Father Frank Pavone. Her name is Terrisa Bukovinac. Terrisa, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Janet. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you. Well, like I suggested, you define yourself as an atheist, but at first I just, most people aren't born into an atheist family per se. You probably were raised in some sort of religion. What was your background there?
Yes, I was raised in the Worldwide Church of God. My family was very religious. And then in my early adulthood, I became involved in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. But it wasn't until years later that I eventually did lose my faith and stopped going to church. But coincidentally, that was right around the time when I became pro-life and started doing pro-life activism.
So you basically got to the point where you said, I don't believe in God at all, right? I mean, you describe yourself as an atheist, right?
Right. Like, I don't know for sure, but I live my life without a belief in God. I think it's very unlikely that there's a God, and I'm just very uncompelled to believe that.
Or to follow any religion, or
right.
It's kind of like you've checked out of that, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, but tell us it now. Okay, so now you don't believe in God, because so many people, as you know, say abortion, stop trying to put your religious beliefs on me. I should have a right to abortion. Now here, you've put aside religious beliefs. You said, okay, that's not for me any longer. But yet you're passionate about standing up for the unborn child. How did that come about? Like, what were the pivotal things that woke you up to saying, they're killing babies and I got to jump into this fight?
It is, some would say, ironic, but it was losing my faith. It was losing a belief in a life after death and the idea of divine justice, the idea that there was a God out there who's going to right all the wrongs in the end. I thought abortion was probably something bad, but there are all these other horrible things happening in the world. And I'm not really, getting involved in any of these issues. I'm just going to pray about it. Babies go to heaven when they die. That's what I thought. But when I really no longer had that belief, it seemed so much more urgent to me. I thought, we're killing babies. This is, in my worldview, this is their only shot at a cognitive experience in the universe, and who has the right to take that from them and why? And right. I came to the conclusion that we don't have the right to do that.
So when you had this conversion to say, I'm getting in this game, I'll stand arm in arm with the Catholics, the Christians, and anyone else who wants to stop the baby killing. Where were you? You were living in San Francisco at the time?
Yes.
And you established a pro-life group there. So tell us about that journey.
Yes. So I founded Pro-Life San Francisco in the years that Trump was running for president. As you know, San Francisco is a very liberal area.
Right.
And I noticed that Trump was running off of the life issue, which was very compelling to right-leaning people. But to people in my community, I felt like they were not going to be reached on this issue through someone like Donald Trump. And so it motivated me to want to give another face or another voice to the movement, someone that they could maybe relate to so that they could actually process the reality that babies are being murdered.
Right.
And so I founded Pro-Life San Francisco, and it still exists to this day. I appointed another executive director, but I have moved on to a new project now.
But while you were in the Pro-Life San Francisco, you did quite a bit of what would we say, activist work, exposing the harvesting of baby parts by groups over there. Tell us just a little bit about that, because I don't think people are still aware that that's still happening.
Sure. So I got involved in direct action because of my work with the animal rights movement. It became very inspiring to me to get directly involved and actually do some disruption style activism, to use a megaphone, to do things that I didn't see a lot of other pro-lifers doing, especially not in that community. And I connected with survivors of the abortion Holocaust, which also had a major impact on the decisions that I was making in terms of what types of projects to pursue. But one of the projects that I did pursue was a campaign against the University of California, San Francisco. I found out that they are the #1 abortion training program, or that they host the leading abortion training program in the nation, called the Ryan Residency. And there they have trained thousands of abortion doctors across the country. And one of the methods that they teach is to not use feticide when doing abortions, so that they can harvest the organs for experimentation and research projects. A lot of these projects require unborn babies past the age of viability from healthy moms who they themselves are healthy. And the procedures that they have to do to procure these parts are absolutely grotesque. They include labor induction, which, according to the Pro-Choice Society of Family Planning, produces born-alive infants up to half of the time when they're not using feticide. And then the other is obviously a dismemberment procedure on a fully viable, healthy unborn child. And several of them have to be supplied on a monthly basis to these projects.
Wow. And of course, they're paying the abortion industry a lot of money to obtain these fetal parts, aren't they?
Well, a lot of the universities supply their own. So the abortion facilities there at Zuckerberg Women's Options Center, there at Zuckerberg Hospital, supplies directly to the facility, the research facility on campus. But likely the research facility is also purchasing parts from middleman companies like Advanced Bioscience Resources in order to keep that supply going. And we have obtained invoices from those transactions, and some up to $20,000.
Wow, terrible. So now you appointed another executive director who's being the watchdog over there in San Francisco, but now you've moved to the East Coast to launch your new group. Tell us about that, the name of the group, and why you came up with this name. So tell us about the name and why.
Thank you. The name is PAAU, PAAU, the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising.
Well, I like that uprising word.
Yes.
Uprising really spells it out. Right?
That was really something I wanted to include, because I wanted to give the sense that we're not just a club or, you know, a
You're
group
there
of
to rattle
thinkers.
cages.
We are. We're here to inspire.
Right.
We're here to mobilize activists for direct action. And I also wanted it to be clearly left-leaning, because I am left-leaning politically, and I'm trying to give visibility to people like me, like I described, in my goals with Pro-Life San Francisco. I have a much bigger goal of that now, where I need to reach the entire nation. I want to disrupt the narrative in the DNC, and so that's going to mean getting other
Democratic
progressives.
National Committee, for those who don't know the
Oh
ABCs.
yes, thank you.
The DNC, yes. Yeah, because, when you look at the politics right now, Terrisa, I mean, unfortunately, it's black and white here. The Democratic Party, their platform is 100% pro-abortion. I mean, they say quite clearly in their platform, get rid of Hyde and Helms Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're very crystal clear about where they stand. And they really want to find a constitutional right to abortion. They want to put it into the Constitution. So the Democratic platform, they're not walking away from it anytime soon. And the Republican Party, on the other hand, they say they want to uphold Hyde and Helms, and they want to one day they would like to see a human life amendment in the Constitution protecting the unborn child. So now someone like yourself, who politically would like to be a Democrat, wants to be a Democrat because of the other boxes they check, but now that they still want baby killing. So doesn't that put you at like a torn, right? It's
Sure.
like, you look at the Republican candidates and they're pro-life, so you probably want to check the boxes there, but then you don't like the rest of their stuff. So like, how do you hash all that out politically? Like, to me, it's like, how do you do it?
Well, the most important thing to understand is that the Democratic platform is a lie. It doesn't represent the majority of Democrats. There are 21 million pro-life Democrats in America. That's a third of the party who considers themselves pro-life. And at least 70% of Democrats, according to the most recent polling, want to see abortion at least restricted a little bit, which is completely opposite from the actual party platform.
See, and that's the fact that the media doesn't even report that, right?
Well, absolutely.
We don't hear that there is even, other than maybe you and a handful of others, pro-life Democrats, right? It's like the best kept secret, I guess.
Well, I think when you look at the landscape of abortion in America, there is one major pillar of power for the abortion industrial complex, and that is the Democratic Party. It is their relationship with the party that keeps them in power. If they lose that relationship, if it's weakened or if it's broken, abortion is done in America. And so I think it is absolutely critical to give left-leaning people who are pro-life a voice and to start to put the pressure on the DNC, because that is the pillar of power for our opposition.
Right.
So I think, a lot of people will be like, well, why don't you throw in the towel and be a Republican? Well, obviously, like you said, it doesn't
check all the other boxes.
Yeah, it doesn't
right.
check all the other boxes. But what good will I be doing the movement as just an individual walking over to the other party that's already pro-life when the work needs to be done in the party I already exist in? And that's what I intend to do.
Right. I can remember when I first got involved in the pro-life movement with Father Pavone. Oh, that was back in like 1989. Okay. He was my parish priest, came to my parish, and that's when my eyes got woken up about abortion. And I can remember coming to Washington back in the 90s, and there were a fair amount of pro-life Democrats in Congress. It was nice to see. And, and Father Frank and I always used to say, well, with the parties, if they switch platforms, tomorrow, then I guess we would be Democrat. Because us, it's all about abortion,
Mm-hmm.
But you see, there was a real turning, and I would say more from the last, I would say 7 or 8 years, that it's like the Democratic Party doesn't want to tolerate anyone who's pro-life. And if you look at the situation now, there's only like 1 or 2 senators there who are pro-life and clinging, and the pressure that the others put on. It's like, and then in the House side, you have, of course, Pelosi and AOC, and they become like the big sound box. And it's like the rest of the Democrats, even if they feel in their heart to be a little pro-life, it's almost like they're afraid to speak out, right? Is that what you're finding? Yes. I mean, when you go on the Hill and you talk to them face to face, what are you finding? Are they? Is there a little bit of pro-life out there that they're afraid to say something? What's going on?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that, but I think that this is about money and power, and we are not going to be able to outspend the abortion industrial complex. They sell abortions. Right. We're a pro-life movement. We don't sell anything, right. But we can out people power them. If we can mobilize enough people on the left, we can topple that industry. Like you mentioned, they're coming in, they're primarying every pro-life Democrat, trying to make it so stigmatized to be pro-life within the Democratic Party, so that pro-life Democrats will remain silent, so that they feel isolated and right. alone and cannot challenge that relationship that big abortion has with the party.
Right. Wow. So when do you go up to the Hill and lobby and meet with members?
That's definitely on our list. I'm very excited.
Well, because you moved from California to DC, so I figured she's got to want to be up on the Hill then, right?
Yeah, we definitely want to be having those conversations. We're very excited that Bobby Rush's district he just announced he's not going to run again. And there is already a pro-life Democrat, Pastor Chris Butler, who is running for office there, who is pro-life.
What part of the country is that?
It's in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So it's a very, very critical district, and he is looking like a front runner, and that would change everything. He is a young progressive. He is a Black pastor, and he is passionately pro-life. He's even come to speak outside Planned Parenthood and spoke at the Chicago March for Life. So he's not shying away from the issue at all.
He's being proudly pro-life.
Proudly. And it's very exciting for pro-life progressives like myself to see him taking such an unapologetic stance on behalf of life, and to see that working for him. And so that will absolutely change the narrative in Washington. when he goes to Congress.
So well, I have to pray. Well, I know you don't, but how's that? I'll pray for that. How's that? No, because that's what we kind of need. We need a crack in the dam right now, because there used to, like I said, be so many, a fair number of pro-life Democrats, but now they've gone.
Yeah,
I mean,
they've been primaried out of existence.
Out of existence.
Shamed, stigmatized, silenced. You're not going to have any kind of future in politics with Democrats if you're not rabidly pro-abortion.
Right.
And that does have to change, because it does not reflect most Democrats.
Yeah. And so you said before there was a number about how many people who identify as Democrats are also pro-life. What was that number?
21 million. That's a third.
So how did that number come up? Was there a survey done, or?
Yeah, it's polling all over the years, consistently showing that roughly a third of registered voters in the Democratic Party identify as pro-life.
Yeah. Well, I actually, by coincidence, my neighbor right across the street from me, she's Democrat, her whole family Democrat. She votes Democrat, but she'll say, "Of course, I'm pro-life."
Right.
You know, but I always find that like an oxymoron thing. Like, okay, you're pro-life, but then how do you vote?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that, you know,
what I liked was you came up with a campaign, which I had loved, for the election. I think it was it 2016, where you said, well, if you can't, all right, if the Democratic candidate is 100% pro-abortion, and that's where they're going to go, so you shouldn't pull the lever for them if you want to stop baby killing. But then you can't fully vote for the Republican either, because you don't agree with all those other issues. So I think you were advocating then don't vote at all. Like, don't vote for that maybe you can go further down the ticket where it's more even, and maybe the person in the lower level office might be pro-life. You could vote there, but up here at the top of the ticket, if they're pro-abortion, then just skip it, right?
Leave it blank.
Leave it
write
blank.
in someone.
Write in Mickey Mouse, maybe.
Exactly.
So I don't agree, you know?
I think giving direct aid to candidates who are going to expand unborn child killing,
right?
It makes us complicit. And it took me a while to get to that place, because I used to vote for pro-choice Democrats, you know, based on the other issues, trying to weigh them out. But I have come to the conclusion that is giving direct aid to an industry that is murdering people, and
it's still thousands every day,
and it plays right into the hands of that silencing and that stigmatization that's coming from the Democratic Party, and is pushing pro-life Democrats out, until pro-life Democrats stand up and say, we cannot support this candidate and still refuse to become Republicans,
right?
And still keep pressuring the party to change. That's when we're going to see change.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I mean, I think what you're doing needs to be done. It really does need to be done, because someone's got to get in there and point this all out. Because like I said, my neighbor, she identifies as, like you're saying, pro-life, but yet she's still a Democrat. And so we've got to help them to really stand up to their party. And like you said, in the primaries, they have to help to get more pro-life Democrats kind of involved. So now, okay, new group. You're in the East Coast, PAAU, for the uprising. What events are you looking to in this year? Do you have like goals or accomplishments, or what is there like a checklist that you're going to try to accomplish this year?
Well, we are trying to mobilize grassroots activists across the country, especially in very blue cities, major cities that have a lot of cultural influence. We're looking to raise up leaders who can engage in sidewalk advocacy, who can take a megaphone to their state house, and who are willing to lobby, you know, their legislators, but also to create disruptive style activism, who are willing to challenge the status quo on the street, because we're being silenced left and right. I mean, we basically are erased from the conversation. So we're going to have to take to the streets to show communities that this issue is not settled, even in blue cities, even amongst left-leaning people, even amongst non-religious people, that this is still a controversial issue that most people need to take a look at.
Well, when you look at the United States, I mean, I don't think most people realize that we have the most extreme abortion laws, and we're right in company, with the most horrible communist nations like China, North Korea. I think it's Russia. Like there's about 5 or 6 that we're with that we allow abortion, to birth. And most people will go, really? Yes. I mean, we have now states like New York, California, Vermont, Illinois, they're checking off one by one where they're now passing more extreme abortion laws to birth, which is like so extreme. And yet when you look at most of Europe, they only allowed abortion up to 12 weeks, the first trimester only. And, Terrisa, when you poll the American people, so many American people still think that abortion only happens in the first trimester, and that's all they would support, right?
Yes, that's true. And that's exactly why we have to keep giving visibility to left-leaning pro-life people so that they can stand up and challenge that status quo, because they don't know. And it's up to us. It's up to left-leaning people to show them, because they're not necessarily going to listen to, Republicans. They just have a cognitive dissonance when it comes to that. So,
right. So now, just to ask another question, as you know, Father Pavone has always said America will not reject abortion unless America sees abortion, meaning seeing the pictures of the victims of abortion. And other people feel like, oh, that's disturbing or upsetting, but that's the reality. So what position does PAAU take on the photography of the victims of abortion and using that as an educational tool?
We think it's really important to not hide the victims of abortion, that we absolutely need to give them visibility. They need to be seen. And, we are trying to find creative ways of introducing those images to the public. But it is really important to us that we are bringing visibility to those who have been victimized.
Well, we have a website. We have one of the largest collections of images of the unborn child, beautiful pictures, and then, of course, the victims of abortion. And you can go to lookatabortion.com, and they could see the pictures for themselves. And do you realize on our website, because we track what pages are visited most frequently, it's the images. So you can see people want to know the truth. They want to see the truth. And then we get email responses that said, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I had no idea that's what abortion does to an unborn child. And when people see that reality, then it's not just this nice couched and choice term. It's the killing of that baby.
Right.
And it converts people, doesn't it?
Yes, it absolutely does. And I think one of the most powerful instruments that we had in the pro-life movement early on was Bernard Nathanson's The Silent Scream.
Right.
That changed so many people and really brought what's happening inside the womb during an abortion to the American people. And yet to this day, to my knowledge, there hasn't been another a modern ultrasound guided abortion that's been available for the public to see. And I think that there's a very clear reason for that, because abortion is the destruction of an innocent life. And there is an effort specifically to keep the reality of abortion hidden from the American people. So even when we're looking at the images, it's not the same, I don't think, as like the impact that the Silent Scream had.
Right.
And I think that, if we had access to something like that was more modern, I think it would really change everything.
Well, Dr. Bernard Nathanson, it was the imagery of that ultrasound pictures that led to his conversion, to dropping his instruments and saying, I can't do that. And he was the founder of the abortion industry. And also, too, he was a Jewish atheist who later converted to being pro-life.
You got him eventually.
Yeah, we got him eventually. And then eventually a Christian, and then eventually he became a Catholic. But that's not necessarily the journey. But I think that also tells everybody why to be open to people, who have maybe different beliefs than you do, as long as you can come together on the common thread of we want to stop baby killing. That's our goal. I mean, that's why here at Priests for Life, we work with you and your group, PAAU, which you're an atheist, but that's okay. And the other thing I think is important to understand, especially with you, Terrisa, is that you're not, it's like you don't dislike religion. You know what I mean? Like when you're here with us here at our Priest Life headquarters, if the group is going to pray before a meal, you're not offended. You don't go, oh, there they go again. You know, it's like you accept our faith and we accept your non-belief. Wouldn't that be the way you would describe it?
Definitely. And it's just so critical in social justice. Looking for ideological purism is the death of social justice movements. But having a big tent, like making sure that you're keeping the main thing, and being laser focused on ending an injustice is critical to victory.
Well, so now suppose people are watching right now and they say, gee, you know, I'm a Democrat, but I am pro-life, but I've never thought about how to make my voice count a little more. How can they be in touch with you and your organization?
Oh, well, please email us at info@paaunow.org. That's PAAUNOW.org.
And you'll welcome them with open arms.
Absolutely. We want to get to know them.
And even if they're not up to being doing an uprising, you will also help encourage them how on the local scene they can show up at town halls and make their voice known during primary season and force these candidates to say, you don't share my values. You might be Democrat, but I don't believe in baby killing, and I want to hear your views. You know, and they can really show up and force the issue out in the open, can't they?
Exactly. And there's so much to be done. There's so many different things that people can do to get involved in. But if you are left-leaning and you are pro-life, now is the time to get involved.
Right.
Your voice is so needed, and your voice could draw out more and more like-minded people. And together we are going to be able to topple this industry in our party.
That's right. That's right. Well, I just want to show you this. This is my favorite. It's one of our new phrases that we're using. This is a beautiful water bottle. It says, abortion does not kill a potential human being. It kills a human being with great potential. Now, isn't that the lie? A potential human being?
Oh,
no,
yeah.
It's a human being that has great potential.
Exactly.
And that's available at our online store at ProLifeProducts.org. So clever little way of, at the gym.
Yeah, it's cute. I need this.
Or giving a pro-life message, right?
Yeah, definitely get people on your side at the gym.
That's right. Absolutely. So again, ProLifeProducts.org, our online store, they can get that and maybe get more people to join the uprising, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bring them out of the woodwork.
Well, I want to tell you that Father Frank and I, we wish you all the luck with your new organization. And of course, as you know, we've endorsed it, give it support. And I'll even pray you do great success. As you know, you accept my prayers, even though it's like part of our friendship, right, Terrisa? So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you so much.
Oh, great having you here as always.
Great to be here.
And keep up that energy. I love it.
Thank you. I will.
Well, brothers and sisters, thank you for joining me on Just Ask Janet. And I hope you understand now that we need pro-life Democrats. And I hope you're out there to convince some of these Democrats where they need to get on saving babies. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, Janet Morena, Priest for Life. God bless.
I will be silent no more.